We are back and ready to get into our final match of the day. Is going to be Thijs versus xBlyzes, and this is going to be an explosive one, I imagine. xBlyzes been playing relatively fast and pretty well, honestly, at least from what I've seen over the past couple of days or the day or so. But Thijs really as well been impressing with the Warlock, but he did get knocked down into this lower match by his teammate RDU. So I guess it's one of those bittersweet things of the team kill, so to speak, of, well, okay, even if you lose, one of your teammates does go through. So I think if Thijs wins this one, G2 will be very happy with their first week of Grandmasters, having 2 players in the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Like, after the qualifying match, the winner, like, sends a message to the loser, like, yeah, I'll see you on Sunday, King. You know, like, you're going to get through and I'll meet you there. You take up the other spot, you know? Like, that's what it has to come down to when it comes to those team kills, like, early in a double elimination bracket. But xBlyzes is going to want to play spoiler to that. And honestly, like, what a story it'll continue to be if he's able to take down this first week. Even if he's able to make it to Sunday in his first week, I think it will go a long way to perhaps silencing the one doubter that he still has. Like, I don't know how crazy you would have to be to still doubt this man after he wins through back-to-back 300-plus player pools to take down Masters Tours. But if they're still out there, then, you know, when he comes to the absolute highest caliber of play in Grandmasters and manages to hang with the big boys here as well, like, that one doubter is going to have to change their tune pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, it is important to note, though, as we go into this first game of xBlyzes on the Priest and Thijs on that Mage, is that even if you play super well, right, you've done the best preparation you can, no one is safe in Grandmasters. There are relegation spots regardless of which division you end up in. And we saw, you know, across all the regions that, you know, relegation is brutal. So even xBlyzes, that has been doing so well, and even if he continues throughout this season, there is a chance that you can just have that unfortunate run of games and be knocked out if it just does not go your way. But the way he's been playing so far, he's making the best of it that he can. And like I said, it's going to be this Priest versus the Mage. And where do you put the Mage on this matchup? Is Priest something you've struggled with?
Yes. It's, I think I went even in this matchup overall before I'd finally managed to tear myself away from playing Mage, which I think was my worst matchup overall. It does seem like they have the tools to be able to shut you down pretty effectively, and can pretty irreversibly gain board control unless you can start blowing them out of the game with primes at the point that you fall behind. Like, they just have all the tools to pick apart your early pushes, it feels like.
Yeah, we are taking a look at a very key card here, Wave of Apathy, that we've seen comboed a lot with that Cabal Acolyte, but we will get that card off the screen in just a second for you. It is a good card, but it doesn't get the Raz Frost Whisper treatment of just being bigger than all of the other cards, because only one card can hold that title for now. What do you think here? Because although Frostbolt just feels like a natural pick because the card is just good, Combustion might help with just a little bit of extra damage, just take down some of these awkward minions that Priest can put down. But I said Thijs going for the Frostbolt.
Your mind is not your own.
Meanwhile, xBlyzes takes roughly 0.3 seconds to consider his turn, and then plays maximum tempo, which I love in the matchup. No need to get greedy with those combos, especially when you just have a second one lined up immediately to go straight afterwards if you need to, which is kind of absurd.
And already, you know, xBlyzes is looking good in this game, right? Priest looking pretty strong. Thijs has a ton of cards. You know, Mage can do some pretty incredible things. But just look at this, 12 health on board, just this turn.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse for Thijs. And high health, as we've seen many times now, Ray of Frosts, Arcane Missiles, even the odd Arcane Explosion. These little tools are used to chip away at a board and open up face damage. Well, that's hard to do when there's so much health on board. And also, Thijs is going to start beaten up pretty soon as well, because this 1-4 is going to become a 4-4 next turn. And as you mentioned, there's another Cabal Acolyte combo for the turn after. There's Apotheosis in hand if he wants to make something even bigger to go. So all this pressure, all this health is going to be tough. But Thijs does answer, at least for now, with a Frostbolt on that 1-4.
And that mirror image is actually low-key insane here, because otherwise we might have just seen xBlyzes rip the combo again, just to straight up steal the Astromancer Solarian. and just generate a huge board himself. But now Mind Render coming into the hand. And this is one of those matchups where you can play Mind Render pretty early for full value, because there's always a good chance that your mage opponent is holding a Sorcerer's Apprentice, a Mana Cyclone, a Mana Giant that costs maybe 5 or 6, and they're getting a little bit greedy with like something that you can just jam out onto your board and ruin their day.
An Invocation, because you can normally make that even work. You know, for you as well, if you have some mana left over. Like you said, there are so many good targets, and the problem is with Mage, or I say it's a problem, it's also a good thing, but Mage is like just one big machine, and you need all the parts for it to work. And if you just pull one of those out, it does stop pretty hard. So I do agree. I think Mind Render is going to be pretty powerful, and not the first dodgy devolving missiles we've seen today, Sol.
Yeah.
What was the other one on? Was it Death? No, it was the Octosauri, wasn't it?
Octosauri, yeah, dodged like 6 missiles or something ridiculous, and then won a brawl that just like refused to die.
Arcane Breath does help out with the issue I spoke about earlier, where it is just 1 mana deal a reasonable amount of damage. It's one of those cheap high damage tools, and I do like Thijs going for it there. Probably just going to get the most use out of it. Oh wait.
Yep, it's happening.
Oh.
He had to wait a turn to do it, but it's happening. That's mine now. I am a priest. You are not allowed to have fun.
And again, this is just what playing against priests feels like. They just have better stuff than you.
Yeah.
Even if it's your own stuff, it gets better on their side of the board.
And I imagine maybe one more turn here for Blyze to get some good cards out of his hand. So like Fate Weaver Apotheosis, for example, and then he'll just Mind Render and just throw away everything playable in Thijs' hand. And that'll probably just about wrap it up, unless Thijs can catch onto that and find some way to pop off before that can happen.
True mastery takes dedication.
I don't know what that looks like. Honestly.
No.
Like, what's funny is, okay, he's killed off the Prime, but he's just shuffled it into his opponent's deck. So it's like, I understand why. I'm not saying he shouldn't have killed it, but
yeah,
it's like a net gain for Blyze again.
Right.
Crazy. Pick your poison here, Blyze.
Ray's dead. Always another
Prime.
Solarian. Always another Solarian. There you go. Nice and easy.
It just looks unfair, doesn't it?
It's because it is.
That's what I mean. Like, why are people not banning Priest? Oh.
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
And that's exactly what's happening. What the Astromancer said. If the Mage had any delusions of grandeur, if you thought Mage was the king, the best deck in the game, Priest is here to crush those delusions. Show everyone who the real boss is. It's kind of ironic it comes from a Mage card.
Yep. I think that's just what priests specialize in, doesn't it? It's like the quit hitting yourself annoyance. Like an older sibling. Like, it's just... Tyson has to work out at least a plan, right? He can't just give up. There needs to be a plan. He's got enough cards in hand to make something happen. Cyclone's going to get played now. There is a Giant and a Conjurers, and we've seen the power of the 8 drops in the game right now. So he needs to try and do something.
That's a pretty sick handful of value you've got there. Shame if something were to happen to it. Something happened to it.
So, okay, let's just get a little bit more serious just for a second. Blyze only has so much mana. What are the key targets for him to get out? Does he just play this Mana Giant?
Yeah, I think Cyclone, Giant, Lab Partner.
Yet again, it's just savage. It's like, nice cards.
Well, actually, hang on. This is actually much more complicated than I thought it was, because every single card he plays discounts the Giant by 1 because they all didn't start in his deck.
Right.
So he can actually get greedier than that. Not actually that much. Yeah,
no
there
board
wasn't. There
space.
wasn't. Yeah, there wasn't really much more than that he could do. So.
Still,
Yeah,
though, like
like-
you said.
He knows his Giant gets death tier because he handed the death over to the opponent. He doesn't care. Like, he just has to deny Thijs from having it alongside the Conjurer's Callings that he now has.
I mean, all I see is I said about, you know, quit hitting yourself style. Well, this is worse because now Blyze isn't even got Thijs' hands and forced him to hit himself. He's telling him to, because this is the death going on Thijs' own minion, effectively. It is absurd. And then now it almost just does it like, yes, xBlyzes is going to give Thijs back all these cards, but what does Thijs have left to win the game with? Like you said, you quite easily pointed out there that the Giant's gone, some of the generation was gone, the Cyclone gone. Thijs is going to get close to just playing basic mage.
And then just that one turn where he did fall behind on tempo and it looked like there might be a chance, boom, initiation just for the full tempo swing, just in case you had any doubts.
What are the best one-drops you can get from Conjurers here, Sal? I think that's... Might be going through Thijs'
Best one-drop? Yeah, Imprisoned Gnarg for a nice fiery war axe. Sounds pretty good. And Reliquary of Souls, so you can get a different prime in your deck from the one that you've been denied earlier.
I mean, I just assume my opponent would just pull a Cabal Shadow Priest out of somewhere and just
fair.
take it anyway, so...
Yeah, that's fair.
Your petty magics are no challenge. Works against me.
Oh, why not there, though, for Thijs? That is something that he can make work, right? We did see a Prime get some jobs done in some earlier games, but Thijs is going to have this Prime do some very heavy lifting indeed. Priest? The class that struggles with card draw unless you draw exactly the cards required at the exact moment. Because now xBlyzes can effectively has 2 mana draw a card as a hero power now.
Yep. But there is still a window here. If this Prime puts together absolute miracles for Thijs, couple of secrets, couple of power creations, or power creation and deep freeze kind of business, or it just casts a puzzle box and everything goes crazy and it comes out in Thijs' favor. There is still this window where xBlyzes just really doesn't have anything going on.
What do you make
and
of
honestly,
this
it's a
play,
situation
though?
he could have resolved. You know, we obviously got excited about the Mind Render and it looked crazy. But actually, when you broke down what was going to happen with his hand that he was giving to Thijs, he was going to lose his board like almost all of the time to breath plus death, depending on what he got off the opponent. So maybe this was a window that xBlyzes just presented to Thijs that he didn't necessarily need to. Okay, it's always sketchy the Prime. Yep.
Sol's lost to everyone.
Oh
and
my
I'm
God,
close.
that's incredible.
I'm close.
That is incredible. Just in case anyone isn't clear on the mechanics of this card, that is, like, Prime is always correct there. Like, you never get shown a card that isn't possible to be in your opponent's hand.
Right.
So it's either cards that started in their deck, or if you see a card that didn't start in their deck, that is the correct answer, because otherwise it wouldn't be shown to you.
Well, from watch Thijs' reaction to the bad news.
I actually can't believe that got the Prime. That's absurd.
Oh, evocation though again. I feel like Thijs, I don't want to say threw away the early evocation, but I feel like it's a weird timing. I think I would have just gone Prime and then tried to empty some hand out for a bigger evocation later. Thijs did use the early one a bit liberally, but he also just didn't go for evocation then. Is this because these Conjurers are just stuck in his hand?
Well, xBlyzes used the first one, right? He stole it and used it himself.
So Thijs used the second one, and then he had an option for a third one.
Yeah.
What is Hearthstone right now? So
that's a great point.
That's a good card as well.
Gambling.
All bound to fate.
What is going on?
Is that all you've got? Just wise going?
Yeah, look. That actually is just all I've got.
Okay.
Real lesson.
I have
Interesting.
I'm a bit surprised that it was Gandling over there, Laura.
Yeah, me too, to be honest. I'm not sure what spells he has left in his deck, if there are any that can have significant downside here. Obviously, Allura is the priority target if the spell can target it, but I'm not sure if there's anything that can go too wrong with the contents of his deck. I guess Soul Mirror just randomly getting ripped out of his deck for no reason is kind of a problem.
Yeah, I think more importantly for me, I was just working out, well, you have a hero power that, like, generates a minion?
Big minions quite a lot of the time as well.
I guess.
No, I'm like agreeing with you. Like Gandling isn't necessarily a good thing because you generate minions that are quite often larger than 4/4.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Works against you.
Secrets are Bender and Vaporize currently, but xBlyzes does have a little bit of a mystery here. Ooh. Rips the Apotheosis into the Spellbender. It's a pretty good outcome for Thijs.
Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if he got Soul Mirror now.
Maybe it would not be so bad if he got a Soul Mirror now. You're absolutely right.
Brightness goes.
Close enough.
Okay. So, with the way this game's been going, Sol, what is Psychopump going to summon?
Well, Raven, obviously, it's going to summon an Astromancer Solarian.
Sounds good. Thijs now, though, only on
every time
2 cards. So while he's done an admirable job, like, surviving and not losing, considering the opening that xBlyzes had this game, he is working on a bit of a dream right now. These Conjurer's Call-ins have to do something quite powerful, or this Font of Power has to be huge, and it's still not active yet, which means there are still some minions left in his deck.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Crystal Merchant was not what Thijs was looking for there.
Just be good with your mana, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh my, oh my.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Seems normal. Uh-huh, yep.
Oh. Conjures the Prime, why not? Oh.
Low on cards.
I think this last card is Lab Partner number 2. Which would check out with the fact that the Font of Power is not kicking yet.
Mm-hmm. Azura the Explorer. Come down here and...
It's got to be
Brightwing?
It's got to be Spell.
Brightwing.
Maybe you're in Brightwing territory, actually. Yeah, you might be right. You probably are right.
It hurts to utter those words, but it's true.
Maybe you've just reached the point where you're a Brightwing gamer.
And the thing is, I think it's almost anything to get a relatively high-cost minion, so Conjurers can do something, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just that's the desperation levels I think Thijs is at right now.
Right. I mean, Thijs is nothing if he's not a trooper. He is sticking in this one.
Spending all of his mana as well.
Yep. Oh, no. Just look. Look. Can we, no. Can we just not? How about that?
Share your thoughts with the class now.
Now we can font right before Thijs could have played it.
Pick the worst one. Is Starscryer the worst one? Unclear.
2 mana, 3/1, do nothing? Probably.
I guess. Spellkin. Spellkin, 4 mana remaining, 2 1-cost spells in your hand. You can't do anything relevant with Sethic except give good spells back to Xbylize when it passes back to him, which
He could have done it the other way, right, and just played Sethic last.
Right, I'm just saying, like, can he achieve anything this turn to actually answer the board state with the Sethic? And no, he absolutely can't. I'm not even sure either of these mind renders were necessarily correct in the positions that Xbylize were in.
What do you think that if he waits? Yeah, but I think that if he waits a turn, then Thijs could just play his whole hand potentially, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing less to draw.
I'm just saying, I feel like this turn was just stronger than anything Thijs would have played with the remainder of his deck.
I guess xBlyzes doesn't know that though, right?
I guess, yeah.
Don't keep your thoughts to yourself.
The end begins.
That's what it is.
Become the hero.
Out of cards.
Oh, it's Mana Giant. Okay.
Yep. Well, that's what the 1/1 does, right? It's a minion in your opponent's deck. Again. It's nothing. As someone likes to discuss about this 12/12 not really being a minion.
It is a 0/0. I don't know what you mean.
I don't know. I think Thijs would be happy with a minion that can wipe the board.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, is Xbylize a prime gamer?
I think he's a soul mirror and just win the game gamer.
I mean, that is the play.
You can trade into the cards, right? That's the one he has to consider a little bit more as well.
Ah, he just wants it.
Okay.
Just wants it himself. What does this Allura do after the fact now? Okay, sure. Sign me up.
Brightwing, you've got one job.
This is going to need to be the greatest Brightwing of his life.
It's going to be Refarm.
It is going to be Refarm, you're absolutely right.
Oh, close.
Ah, yes, a Desert Obelisk. Exactly what we needed.
Hey, I saw Jackie Chan play an Obelisk Mage deck. It was very interesting with the potions. xBlyzes is going to take a win in game number 1 with that Priest. And it did go, I'll be honest, the game went a little bit longer than I thought it would. But still, the Priest, you could just see why one Priest is doing so well, not only in the tournament, this weekend so far, but just in general. He wasn't even close to the end of the deck. Yes, he stole a ton of cards and got primes and such, but that's what the deck does, right? The decks can do those plays. We talked a lot about why the Acolyte is good with the Apathy for these steals. There are a ton of strong cards that you can steal away from your opponent in a ton of matchups. So not only that, but just combined with the spell generation from this sort of half dragon package that you talked about, is that acts like the card draw, which is kind of the weakness of the deck. So it's pretty incredible overall. And the Mind Render also just acts like kind of card draw again, right? You play it and go, okay, well, my cards kind of suck. I'll play your cards instead for a turn. And then suddenly you've just gained even more value. So the Priest continuing to be a threat overall. But xBlyzes now has his Druid and Mage left over. And looks like he's going to be going for his Druid the next turn.
Yeah, and I do still want to go back and wonder a little bit about that, particularly that first Mind Render from xBlyzes, because don't get me wrong, at the time I was fully on board with it. Like, I called it out 2 turns in advance. Like, it's 1 turn to get rid of this Apotheosis and the Fate Weaver from the hand, and then the next turn is probably going to be Mind Render. But once it happened, it became pretty clear that what you were actually giving was a tempo swing back to Thijs. And I think xBlyzes got pretty fortunate that he got a hand passed back to him with basically nothing in it. And I think his next 3 draws were like Galakron, Fate Weaver, Raised Dead or something, which is 3 of like the highest value cards in his deck from that point. So it was possible that he could have run dry from that point. after, essentially allowing Thijs to clear his board. He can't really know that because he doesn't know what his board is going to look like after he steals the mage's hand. But he does know that he has some very high quality removal in his own hand. So I don't know. I'm still kind of curious about that first fight.
And I think that's an interesting point as well to be raised as we get into this game of powerful cards, right? Mind Render is obviously a very powerful card, which means very early on in the expansion, it's going to be done and used in powerful ways. But the real scary thing is when that play pattern and timing gets refined, right, in each matchup, when you start to have just more experience with the card, more ways to utilize not only the timing, but which cards of your opponents that you actually want to play and give back, and so on. And the more time people have to play with this, the stronger it's going to get, which is quite scary.
Speaking of scary, this is a scary-looking hand for xBlyzes right now. Because next turn, he has a Kael'thas proc. He doesn't currently have anything to do with it, but it's there.
Yep, Thijs? Got a pretty solid opening himself. He's going to play this spider tank, especially now that the spell burst effect has gone. But he does have spell damage, and he does have cram session. And again, like if it's not going to be an apprentice, I think I'd like card draw in an early opening hand for mage.
Right, agreed. Ooh, beast number 3 was certainly not what xBlyzes was looking for there.
It wasn't.
This devolving missiles.
One.
Yeah, this devolving missile is going to come in big though. That's the problem. You never feel like this is going to stick against mage. You play it out, you know it's the right play, but you just wince internally. You know something bad is going to happen to it.
And again, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, unless I'm misremembering, but when you're talking about mage and the builds, you were completely right when it is each build is very matchup dependent. Because some players aren't running evolving missiles, right?
Yep.
Which makes it look silly when you look like a turn like this from Thijs against Druid. But also, we've seen devolving missiles almost do nothing in a lot of other matchups. So it is tough to decide on what is good enough. And maybe you just have to say, okay, I'm going to expect to face more Druids than any other deck.
Well played.
So devolving missiles is correct. And you even see players now just saying, yeah, GG, this is way too slow.
Yeah, this is actually GG. Like, just straight up. 2 Evos in hand, Mana Giant in hand, Sorcerer's lived for a turn. Yeah, this game's over. Over. That's quite big.
Well, that can be solved.
It can.
Is it just actually Violet Warden here?
No way. I'm playing that 8/8 this turn for 0.
Okay.
All in due time.
Exactly.
You fight me, you get burned. Turn it up.
No? Thijs doesn't believe? Ah, coward.
Get him out of my sight.
Well played.
xBlyzes calling that one a day, and that is also the downside. See the shrug from Thijs? Like, yeah, sometimes it happens. It's the downside of Druid, and although we maybe haven't seen it that much in Grandmasters in Europe over the past day or so, if you play enough ladder, you will see one way or the other, Druid does have games where they don't get to play. Yeah, you play 4 or 5 beasts in your deck. Sometimes you draw a few of them. Sometimes you miss your ramp. Sometimes you don't have the guardian animals pay off. We saw that actually Xbyzes' hand was insane, apart from just one more card he needed. 1 overflow, 1 guardian animals, and the game looks probably the opposite way, actually. And Xbyzes might just steamroll from there. But that is, again, the weakness of Druid. If Druid was super consistent, and it's probably close to being super consistent, but if it did it every single game, it would be absurd, right? And that is the weakness that Druid gets sometimes without that ramp. So very, very quickly, that long, drawn-out game number 1 between xBlyzes and Thijs is just flipped on its head with a very quick response from Thijs in game number 2, evening this up 1-1.
Yeah, and we saw xBlyzes looking a little bit frustrated for the first time, a little bit salty with how bad his draw was there, not finding anything to pop off with the Kael'thas. But if you want to rewind your mind a few hours, we saw the other side of that coin in Bly's series, where he just went Overgrowth into Kael'thas with 3 procs on, like, turn 7. Like, I'm sorry, Blyze, I don't care what you're used to. That doesn't just happen to you every game of Druid, okay? Like, sometimes you do draw badly. It is going to happen, and you have to roll with the punches sometimes.
Moving on to our game number 3, we're going to see a matchup we've not seen much of this Warlock anyway from Thijs, but we are going to see it go up against Mage now. So here's a different kind of test. I think the one time we've seen it on stream today, we saw the Warlock go up against, I guess, its intended target of Priest, which is a very different deck to how Mage performs. So we'll see if now Thijs, I guess, has the defensive tools to fight back an early Mage push.
Almost out of time. So many.
Which again, I think Galakrond Warlock has the tools, right? Not only, okay, you can argue these early one drops are going to be nice, but really the mixture of heal and multiple different types of wide removal, it's got to be at least one positive for the Warlock in this matchup.
Oh, it says explode!
Pretty slowish start here from Blyze, though. I think you would like to get some pressure going early in this matchup against the Warlock. I do find Tour Guide particularly interesting in this deck, though, because I'm used to seeing the Tour Guide be used in the self-damage zoo that a lot of people are using, which, like, when that deck all lines up and you get, like, the discounted hero power, you hold it for a turn, you play your Dark Glare, you grab your mana off it, you drop a Disease Vulture into a Flame Imp, all that kind of nonsense. You get ridiculous turns, it looks like the best deck in the world. Whereas, like, in this deck, it just is a free life tap. That is about all it does. Like, potentially it can be 0 cost, change your health this turn so that you can snipe a minion directly on turn 4. Like, I can see that lining up sometimes. But outside of that, it really just does seem to be a 1-drop that gives you a free life tap. There doesn't really seem to be any much greater synergy to it than that.
Yeah, and again, I think it might just be one of those things where it's a good enough card for week 1. Does it change in week 2 if Galakrond Warlock's a bring, right? Does the deck get played with more, get refined more cards get tested out? We're gonna find out, I guess. But for now, Blyze does have that slower opening, although you said you would have liked to see some more aggression, or Blyze would have liked to see some more aggression here, but what do those cards look like? Because it's definitely not a matchup you can drop an early apprentice in.
No, but just, curve out, like, spell damage minion, cram session, that kind of thing in the early game. That's why it kind of count as aggression in this matchup. Like, Blyze is just such a pleasure. Like, just look how quick and smooth everything is this turn. It's wonderful. He just knows. He just knows what he's doing.
Oh.
And what he's doing is playing this giant for 0 this turn.
He's playing it so fast because we can see the cost of the giant changing before the cards are played.
Yep.
Like, it's actually so crazy.
See what I mean? You just have to believe. When I say I'm playing a giant for 0 this turn, I'm playing a giant for 0 this turn, okay? Wait, he's not playing a giant for 0. Amazing.
Oh, what? Guys, I think this sums up, right? Saul's been telling us all, and I think everyone will agree, Blythe's a very good Hearthstone player. Saul knows nothing. That's what I got from that comment. Knows nothing. You all think he knows his stuff. Proven wrong right now by Blythe. I love it.
He doesn't play Conjurer's Calling in his deck. Like, what? What's happening?
I don't know, because it's about as much Plague Protection as you're going to get as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it a full board is as much protection for 1 minion against Plague of Death than you can actually ever get.
I mean, either way, Thijs doesn't really have much of an answer to what's going on right now.
So many. Almost out of time.
He can clear.
It's not pretty, though, is it?
It's not, but he's leaving a Sorcerer's Apprentice on the board pretty.
No, that's a disaster.
So, who's doing it? Oh. And look at Wise. He's pumped.
Wow, he just gets to keep it. Was this the plan? Was the plan that you just get to keep the apprentice and then you rip another evocation turn and hit the Conjurer's Calling off that? Was that the plan, Raven? Tell me that wasn't the plan.
I am only a mere mortal, Sottle, so what I do now know is this is going to be a little bit harder for Thijs to clear this board. And like I said to you, it's extreme, but I do think you have to go to the extremes to kill a Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
He could have killed it that turn.
Well, now we're here.
Now he has to risk it.
I mean, risk it is the word, because guess what?
Oh.
There's a lot of secrets that are going to get in the way of this mess.
Oh, an Arcane Intellect off the top. Let's keep the party rolling.
A party was kind of done by midnight, which is earlier than this broadcast is going to finish at this point.
That is so much damage. And again, I really like the trades here from xBlyzes because, yeah, you could think, oh, all face, kill him quick.
Yeah.
Just in case there's another plague or there's something that can get to this giant, it is definitely worth trading off some of these imps because you're just removing the strength of the Warlock right now.
There's currently 4 fragments in Thijs' deck, which would mean 1 attack, 3 attacks go into the images, and yeah, nowhere near enough to clear up the remainder from there. So he draws looking for a better solution. I think he's found it though. Spellbender does not proc because there isn't space on board.
Now what does he want here? Tour Guide tap into every fragment?
I guess, yeah, sure.
Like if we're just playing the game. And there we go. To concede xBlyzes, it does step ahead into a 2-1 victory so far here with this mage, and honestly extremely fast and hard to keep up with, but what looked like pretty solid play. The giant was a question mark, but for me, the non-plague turn was just the moment where the game could have changed. And I'm not saying, oh, Thijs messed up by not plaguing away the apprentice, but the more you don't do it, the harder the plague is to pull off. And on that turn, he could have just about cleared the full board with the plague. He sacrifices his own board, but then what are you expecting xBlyzes to do next turn with no board, no apprentice, right? I don't think it's ever going to be as threatening as 1 apprentice on that board. And you saw then how hard it got. Yes, the plague got counterspelled, but even if it didn't, it was risky because it wasn't even close to a full board clear. So I do think there was just a moment there where Thijs could have changed the outcome of that game.
Get rowdy when you're tired, Raven. I kind of like it. You're just going in over there. This isn't the Raven I'm used to. I'm kind of into it. More of this, please.
Okay, well, players, Bunny Hopper, Yala, get qualified for next week, and we'll be back.
Protect the wild.
xBlyzes now on the Druid to book his spot for Sunday, and it will be an incredible achievement once again. I feel like I'm banging this drum excessively at this point, but he can't keep getting away with this, surely. Someone has to shut this man down, teach him a lesson about who the real Hearthstone legends are, right? That's what Thijs is here for?
Yes, but then if you want to look at xBlyzes' hand, it looks okay, are the words I'm going to choose.
Yeah. I've seen worse Hearthstone hands.
I mean, although this looks like, oh no, hero power on 3, does the game just end next turn? I will say, though, that, again, a generation of imps with an invoke plus a plague kills the minions no matter what health they're on, right? So there is a plan here for Thijs. Thijs does have answers to big druid plays. The problem is the rush on the minions is going to be a huge issue, along with even cleave makes that a lot better. So Thijs just, I don't think will have the mana, even if he has plague and a generation, to actually play all of this to get a good answer off here.
He's not KTing, right? This is just animals? Okay. I thought for a second he'd picked up the KT. And I was like, you can't just, YOLO windmill all in against this deck, right? When you're just creating a 3 or 4 minion board left to deal with that they are very capable of blowing up with Plague of Flames still at this point in the game. But okay, it was just Guardian Animals, which I'm much more on board with.
I would have played that KT so fast.
Really?
It's one whole extra minion, which makes Plague one whole extra minion harder to use.
That is true, actually. Yeah, like
serious.
3 minions Plague of Flames is pretty much what you're expecting to be possible from your opponent right now, I guess. So maybe KT being the 4th minion is just fine.
This is one of those weird games where, although it was obviously strong from XBlyzes, XBlyzes is still in a great spot. Thijs on 15 health, XBlyzes still has the board. But it's one of those games where you sit back and go, maybe this feels more busted than it is. It is manageable sometimes, right? It isn't just, I think, day one, everyone thought, oh, Druid just does this, and then the game literally ends. And players have got good enough and utilized and practiced different decks and different ways to deal with it, that the game doesn't just end. It was an overreaction, I think, from the majority of the player base. Don't get me wrong, it's strong, but you don't just lose. And we're seeing this from Thijs now. The game doesn't just end.
Yeah, I think, yes, there were some decks that people wanted to play early on that if Druid, bloomed out animals against them, they lost. Well, guess what? Those decks suck. You don't get to play them if you want to be competitive. Sorry, that's just how the card game works.
Right.
Good decks can compete with just, baiting out some animals early. They might struggle to compete with, the most ridiculous Kael'thas turns that are possible, because Kael'thas is still just potentially very broken. They might struggle to compete with just, Overgrowth and Druid just consistently having way more mana than they have. But just one turn of dumping out animals on board, if your deck loses to that, your deck sucks. It's
right.
That simple.
But there is the dual problem now, right, that Thijs has to keep hold of. One, can he interact with this minion? Not really. So this stealth minion is going to be able to get an attack off and draw some cards for XBlyzes. But also, Thijs needs to not only worry about XBlyzes having more cards, but also his own health. He's only on 12. It's a little bit scary for now, especially if you just assume this can go face, then it's going to be a tough one, which makes the Shield of Galakron a good little speed bump from there.
Sure does. But these card draws off this Twilight Runner could decide the fate of this game, this series, and of our tournament day as a whole, because if they draw some pop-off cards for Kael'thas, which he has in fact already found, it means he can now preemptively survival of the fittest before even attacking and look for a second activation potentially even off this draw, although it would be absurd to see that outcome. Oh, so close.
Still, though, these minions, however much health they have, they are susceptible to Plague. So this game has gone fairly straightforward. Okay. That's going to draw a lot of cards.
Sure is, yeah.
Does he ever actually Soul Share first?
If you don't Soul Share, you have 3 draws off the Cultist and a tap to find Plague of Flame, right?
Okay. I was only thinking because he might need the healing as well.
If he clears, he doesn't need to heal.
Sure.
If he doesn't clear, it doesn't matter how much he heals. So I think you just straight up go for the clear. Wait, is there a way to just do this?
Double damage. 5. He's just leaving KT up.
Whoa, okay. I was not looking at this. Suddenly, XBlyzes has regrets about the Iron Bark usage on the previous turn. Wow, I was not looking at that at all. Kind of see where his head's at, though. It's a pretty smart decision, honestly, to just try and load up the stats in play to compete with the board naturally, not be all in on the card draw. And if the card draw happens to hit, then great. But if it doesn't, he still gives himself a way to get out of jail.
It would literally have to have been spell survival, right? To just end the game.
Yeah.
But that's it, I think.
Which he had. XBlyzes had that.
Yeah,
But, like
just
he threw away the Iron Bark.
Yeah. I guess the difference is, though, if he didn't Iron Bark, would there have been a different clear?
Yeah,
or
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure, that's fair.
Another breath with the Mohawk still down. I'll put him back to 11. And also, there's just a plague.
Yep.
Which means absolute worst case scenario. Thijs could just plague this board away. Not that he has to now.
Yeah, if anything, his minion push on the previous turn has now allowed him to preserve this plague. So now not only has Thijs dealt with the initial storm, he actually still has resources to deal with, you know, Sarah into refill, into whatever other minions come off the top. Like, by just drawing cards and finding the clear and using the clear on that one turn we were talking about, he would have been dead to any refill over the next couple of turns, most likely. But he's stretched out his resources so well by just investing a face tank on the KT into it.
Yep.
He's stretched out his resources to the point where he can probably just kill them all at this point.
And I really like the tap last turn as well, because he can self-Alex this turn. If he needed to, of course, the soul fragments might change that plan. Maybe just a... What about aggressive Alex?
Yes, I will.
Oh, now you're talking. But yeah, look at this just package of removal building up in Thijs' hand. Double Plague of Flames.
And these fragments, again, just do... I love the soul fragment mechanic. It's why I've been playing a ton of Demon Hunter. And I just love that not only can you choose to utilize them to activate minions, but you can also choose to try and leave as many in your deck as possible to help with just this, you know, these tick-throughs of heal, which can really make the difference between winning or losing a game.
Want to buy one broom. Alright, there it is, finally.
I concede.
It's a weird-looking broom.
Xbylyzes just says it's too late. He's going to tank all that damage one turn and then tank it all again the very next when he has to play the Asera, and he realizes he's just going to be dead on board at that point, so he has to give it up. And honestly, just straight up round of applause for Thijs on that one. That was a very, very well navigated game. It's great, you know, for me as someone that, you know, still wants to learn the game from some of the very best players, to look at a game of Hearthstone and say, they won that game, I would have lost it. Like, genuinely, that's a great thing for me to watch, because it means like I'm taking something away from it, and I would have lost that game of Hearthstone. And I think, you know, Thijs just found a way to stretch out his resources and navigate through into an incredibly good position, which I absolutely just did not see.
And I think it's something that Thijs does very well, is remind us that he is a very good Hearthstone player.
Yeah.
And that sounds like an insult, and it really isn't. It's just, I think it's very easy to think of Thijs the streamer, right? You know, he plays all sorts of decks. You know, he's a very fun guy to watch. You know, he just wants to have a good time. But in these games, in competitive games of Hearthstone, he does now and again just remind us that he is a fantastic Hearthstone player, and he can, you know, think outside the box. And again, it kind of make us look silly. Us two are sat here just watching this game and commenting on it. And, you know, like you said, neither of us really said, "Oh, he could just do this.
Just play minions." Yeah.
Neither of us even. I normally get away with this stuff by joking about plays, right? That's my plan. And even I didn't go there. And Thijs, like you said, showed us something new, which is nice. And meanwhile, we are getting straight into this game, number 5. The last game of the day. Lies on the Druid, and Thijs also on this Druid. But the key difference we've been checking out all day is Thijs on this Mount Seller list, was Xbylyzes, of course, on this big survival of the fittest plan. And have you had any more thoughts on this since we've seen it once or twice more? Do you think the Mount Sellers are able to go under it enough, or is just the raw power of survival of the fittest better?
No, I'm still not sold. I'm still very citation needed on this matchup. I'm really unsure about whether I would rather have, you know, the grosser power plays, or a bit of fluidity and, you know, early Mount Seller being able to run away with the game. I'm really unsure about where I sit between the two. So I'm really looking forward to get as big a sample as possible under the belt.
Yeah, really interesting as well that Xbylyzes is setting up for the payoff of the survival of the fittest already with these 3 rabbits on board. They're going to be growing pretty large and maybe set up some lethal.
Ah, yes, Evolved Druid. I remember this deck.
The hand does look like Blyze has just switched to Beast Druid, right?
Yeah.
With the camel as well.
Yeah. And
No
for
one thing-
Thijs, Double Teacher's Pet is pretty slow in this spot, honestly.
Some nice options for next turn. The Mount Cellar and having the Bog Beam active along with that Moonfire means Thijs has board building potential, even outside of just having waiting a little bit longer and maybe utilizing the studies and the Crystal Power the turn after if he really wants to hold off, or just continue with the train, depending on how well the Mount Cellar goes. On the other hand, though, Blyze really needs to get this survival of the
Oh my
fittest
god, he
active.
actually hit it! I was going to make the joke that Blyze always nuts the second Lightning Bloom here. I didn't want to interrupt you, but it actually happened. That's ridiculous.
So I'm not even surprised. I called this multiple turns
I
ago.
know!
Remember not too long ago when I said I make ridiculous calls because sometimes the player does them and it sounds funny? There you go.
What just happened?
Whoa. That's pretty good too. Blyze does have a beast follow-up here that is buffed. The Spitting Camel of Doom is playable next turn even though he only has 3 mana.
His Spitting Camel's just a 6/8, and then he's got 2 free spells to go along with that as well on what should be his punish turn. Admittedly, Thijs' turn is much more impressive than that, and I think Blyze is still in trouble despite that absolutely insane draw off the top.
If Thijs kills the Nubisath, it might be doing Blyze a favour because it means the camel will not spit at it.
Did he get baited? Is there any way he got baited? Is there any way that wasn't the play that turn?
No. Even if only for hype points, that's the play.
Okay.
Wow, this is Ixor though.
Time waits for no one.
He's just dead. He just looks kind of dead.
And there's no blooms left, right? You have to use them both, which means you can't bloom out anything else. He just has... Oh my god, this camel.
7-11 camel, open all night.
I knew the joke before you even said it, and it still made me laugh. How stupid's that? Relatively weak summon there.
It's just so clean to go through this thing, though.
It is, it is. Maybe he...
Trade in the one just for the sake of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly what I was about to say, I promise. Really nice there. And now 8
get
mana
out.
and a dream.
There's just no way, right? Even with the overflow draw, there's no way the rest of his deck is powerful enough to compete. There's no way, Raven! Nah.
We'll see.
Nah.
He does have rather large minions.
Nah. 3 turns of Mount Cellar? Come on.
My dream is yours.
I mean, 0 turns of spells. This
That's
one.
true. That is fair. There's nothing... There's still... I was going to say there's no Twilight Runner left. There is a Twilight Runner left. Oh my goodness, he's actually doing it.
There's a Ghidra!
The Ghidra! The full clear!
Wait! The Ghidra! Survival of the fittest next turn for ultimate God mode Ghidra!
Yeah, we have seen one Ghidra get +14/+14, but I don't think we're going to be seeing it again. With this Zixor Prime on the other side. Zixor Prime hero power, but it's not a good turn. It looks good, but I promise you it isn't. Because it just gives an empty board over to Blyze to fully develop onto for the next turn.
Here's my question though, and a very serious one. Joking aside just for a second. does xBlyzes use this opportunity to play Ysera and get the dragons in the pool, or does he just double 5-drop again because his minions are probably bigger than the dragons?
Exactly, yeah. The dragons are shrimpy little boys that he does not care about right now. He will he will let his Thijs have the dragons here and just over-contest them with much bigger minions himself. I think that's absolutely the right way to go about it.
Because it is something where you could catch yourself, right? Because you go, oh, empty board, and I have Ysera with no cards left in the deck. Perfect. Yeah. But actually, look at these minions, and one being a Thresher is huge because it wipes everything.
Yeah, I mean, just like look at the dragons. Like, who cares? Like, do you think xBlyzes cares about this? xBlyzes does not care about this. 5/5s, he laughs at 5/5s. 5/5s, he laughs at 5/5s.
Hello?
You can squeeze those together into a golden 5/5 and discover a 10-drop. He'd still not care about it.
So, it's not lethal next turn with survival, though, right?
Nope.
And that's something, again, we see how these games can flip back and forth. It is something that xBlyzes has to be aware of. That the game's looking fine, but it's not over.
Oh, drawing more cards. Sorry, 5/5s? You think he cares about 5/5s? No, I didn't like it.
Worth a try.
It was worth a try, yeah.
Yeah, that looks like a good turn for the Ysera. He didn't have a double minion play here,
exactly.
So you may as well play the one massive minion that generates you more minions. And again, like I said, not too much of a surprise. xBlyzes not just saying, okay, this is a lot of damage, go face. This is, no, how do I win this game? Let's secure it.
What is happening? If this is a third Brightwing, I quit. Like, I'm actually out. You're on your own. Okay.
Oh! That would have been awkward, because I would have also quit. With a really weird ending to a very strange day.
I'm almost out of cards.
Animation tickles me as well.
Last card is a portal.
Time waits for no one. For your life.
Impressive, but unlikely to be relevant with the way that the game's going.
Do you think xBlyzes cares about 7-5?
You think xBlyzes cares about waxy boys? See the size of his cleavy boy?
And his bright boys?
Yeah.
Trying to get serious. What is Thijs actually trying to do right now? Because doesn't look great, does it?
I think I might be sold on who's favoured in this matchup now, though.
What, xBlyzes?
xBlyzes, yeah. No, but like, if you as the survival druid can sit there, let your opponent mount Seller, and then your response is be overloaded and hard pass, essentially, and then leave that Mount Seller up for 2 turns, and still just have enough power in your deck that you win, that's probably a good sign for the deck.
My question is there suddenly a one survival of the fittest play or slot in the deck available? You know, for example, in this Mount Seller build, right? Because maybe you need to go toe-to-toe, because I do feel one is enough.
Actually hit the Mali, by the way, which is kind of insane in terms of the extra clearing power that he got out of this.
But does xBlyzes care about 5/15s?
Raw, Savage Raw, Kale Thus, Survival of the Fittest for 0. You never count this. Imagine counting here.
I don't even count when it's close.
Actually imagine counting.
And the claps there from xBlyzes. He gets the victory. Takes down Thijs in a crazy series of Hearthstone. 3-2. He's going to move on to the final day, which is tomorrow, and join the top 4 there. And xBlyzes continues to impress. It was a bit dicey. There were moments. There were some games that ended quickly on both sides. But most importantly, xBlyzes is through. And Thijs, though, I do want to say, has done a great showing for week 1. And I have no doubt we're going to see him in the top 8 Swiss at some point in the next couple of weeks as well. But xBlyzes, like, I don't know. I don't even, I'm surprised I still have some words to say at this point. But what a crazy set of games. The last 2 days have just been nuts. And if this is what Scholomance is going to do to us, then I don't know if I'm going to survive till the end of Grandmasters.
Oh, don't make promises you can't keep, Raven. I mean, honestly, like, I just want to petition for xBlyzes to be involved in every series of Hearthstone that's broadcast ever, because he's just so entertaining. Like, I can't even say it's anything that he's doing. It's just every game he plays seems to be chaos. I can't tell you what he's doing that's contributing to making that happen. It just seems to be that way. So I just want him on every single broadcast ever for the rest of Hearthstone's history.
Yep, change his name to Midas because he seems to have a golden touch with broadcast games at least. But you can check out our top 4 there from yesterday and today's groups. And it does mean we're going to have Yala versus xBlyzes on one side and then RDU versus Psycho for the first top 4 of the Hearthstone Grandmasters European week number 1 Swiss. And I cannot wait, Sottle. I know you see me moving all over the show there, sorry. I actually just looked at the bracket very closely there because I'm excited. But I cannot wait. I mean, we've had some long broadcasts for the first couple of days, and honestly, I just can't wait for tomorrow to get started for us because this is a hype top 4. We have xBlyzes, you know, the new guy on the block, but then, you know, RDU having the opposite start to Season 2 as he did to Season 1, and if he takes the victory, that's a huge deal. Yala, we spent most of last season talking about how amazing he is in the European Grandmasters and, you know, rating him as one of the top players in the world. All of this is left to prove, and Psycho with his outside-of-the-box deck building, all of these players are exciting to watch. But any final words before we go and let Frodo and TJ take over?
I think you've set up tomorrow for us perfectly, so I guess I will just end on the customary plug and ask people to give us a subscribe to the YouTube channel, Hearthstone Esports YouTube, the exclusive place for Hearthstone Esports. Live broadcast content. We will be starting up yet again with all of our original content for this season as well. So if there was any particular show that you were a fan of last season, that'll all be starting up again. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Do ring that bell as well, so we're pushing all the notifications to you. And if you want to set a reminder, all of the streams are scheduled in advance. You can set yourself a reminder. Make sure you do not miss a single minute of the action.
Yeah, we've had a great time today. We do, you know, apologize for the slight technical issues that we've been working on with the mics. We will continue to try and fix them for you guys so you can hear our lovely voices. But thanks a lot for watching. We do appreciate it. And we'll see you tomorrow for the final day of the European Grandmasters Week 1. But for now, we've got TJ and Frodan ready to bring you Americas. So those guys will take it away. Hope you enjoy.